Hello, and welcome back for some more Mechyard survival. In the last episode, we did a little bit of upgrading to some of the scrap walkers, and we made a start on building the Fenrir Mk that you can see behind me here. It is a slightly upgraded version of a dogbot style mech that I made a few months ago. And last episode we set it up with its basic controls, and we set it up with a remote control so that we can pilot it, and I made a start on its docking bay, which I have done a little bit of work on between episodes and painted it and spruced it up a little bit to make it look a bit nicer. And today there's a few things I'd like to do. Firstly, I'd like to try and get the new Fenrir patrolling around the base, and secondly, I would like to try and work on his docking sequence and getting him working as well as the scrap walkers do. So we will do some work on building the docking computer. But first of all, we need to set up some patrol routes, so let's go and have a look at that. Right, well, the first thing we're going to need to do is take control of him and set up some waypoints for him. Okay, now that we've got all of those waypoints set up, we can sort out the AI blocks. So we can go to our AI patrol task block, select autopilot, patrol route will do. We will add in all of the waypoints we just made. Make sure they're all in the right order. Ooh. And then, like the scrap walkers in the first one, we can have our docking start timer. And that will start the docking sequence when it gets back to its first waypoint, if this timer is switched on. But we'll deal with that stuff later. So the first thing we'll do is we will turn off the trigger to the opposite control. We will turn off the weapon controllers so that they don't stay active when the AI patrol mode is switched off. Then we've got our AI blocks turning on and off, the AI for those blocks turning on and off, walk sensor turning on and off, and that's about it for now. Right, and there he goes. What's going to happen here? Oh, we're just going to barge his way past.
Hi, I am Automaton. I work hard when my owner turns me on. I can get you some uranium ore. Just let me know if you need more. Put me on a journey through space and time, and if you want to break me, that's just fine. You don't need to supervise me. Just keep in mind I need electricity.
Right, well that was a pretty good first test. There was a few issues, might need to make a few little adjustments here and there, but I'm pretty happy with that as a first run. So next step, we will try and set up the docking sequence, and then try and make this docking pad do the things that I want it to do. Now we've got those waypoints sorted out, we can start setting up the docking sequence properly. So we'll go into our docking start timer, and then the first thing we need to do is disable all of the AI blocks so they are not interfering. We also need to make sure that the weapon controller light turns off, and then we can turn on the autopilot controls for our docking sequence. And hopefully nothing will interfere with it now. Right, then we can move on to the docking end timer, and this is the timer he'll trigger when he finally gets into the bay and is ready to actually dock. So the first thing we're going to get it to do is send a relay signal to the docking bay. And then the next thing we want to do is turn off the autopilot on our docking sequence, and we also want to reset the waypoints just as a little fail-safe. Then we can turn off both of the AI mode lights so it stops patrolling or following us, and then we can have a few extra little fail-safes just in case. And if we activate the docking start timer and trigger it, he should hopefully end up back in his docking bay. It's not too bad. And we can close the gates. That should push him nearer the middle. Then we can activate the piston in the centre, and because of the wedge shape on that, it should catch him. There we go. Then that can lock him down and go into recharge mode. And then that whole thing will lift up, and then it will all rotate so that he can launch back out the other side. Then when it gets to there, it'll come back down. And then when he's recharged, we'll have that, and that, and that all detach and retract. And then he should be ready to go again. So now, we need to think about what we're going to do with this computer and how we're going to build it. Okay, so after slaving away all night, I've finally got a computer built and some semblance of a docking sequence sorted out. So we've got a similar kind of arrangement to the scrap walker bays. We've got a series of lights going around in the circle that trigger various event controllers, and they activate things like the hinges, the pistons, the docking connector and stuff like that. And then there is a series of stages, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and as each one of those goes through its cycle, it activates all of those lights and makes the whole thing happen. So if we take control of the Fenrir and walk him into place, there, we can then activate the whole thing. So the sides lift up, create a barrier for him at the front and back lift up. Once they are all in place, it triggers the piston, which slots into place underneath and centers him, and then that triggers a timer on a slight delay that then locks down. Once the connector's locked down, it spins the rotor. Now, I got rid of the pistons. I got rid of the piston lifting up and down because I actually had more than enough room to make the whole thing spin without it. And then finally, the front and back ramps redeploy so we can get inside if we need to. And then when we want to leave, we can deactivate the whole thing. The two sides will open, and the docking piston will retract, and then we can walk out, and once we walk out, there is a reset system in place so that the docking bay folds back up and then spins back round back to where it should be, and then it will unfold again, ready for the next time that we want to dock. Right, now that we've got all of our bits and pieces more or less sorted out, we need to start putting this all together into one big docking and recharging sequence. So now it's time to play around with some AI blocks. Right, so first of all we've got our battery low controller. This is what's going to send us back to the docking bay. We'll set it to stored power and we'll say less than 15%. We will select all of our batteries and we'll stick it on gate mode so that when all of those run down below 15%, it will trigger the docking sequence. And what this is going to do is when that gets low enough, it's going to activate, well, it's going to turn on this docking start timer. And that is the docking sequence that we set up earlier. And the way it'll work is every time our mech completes his little patrol route and gets back to the first waypoint, if the battery low event controller has turned on that docking block, it will trigger and it will activate the docking sequence. So we should be able to activate his patrol route, and he'll walk around doing his thing, and in theory, when his battery runs low, when he's made his way back here, it will trigger his docking cycle and he'll pop on up there. And the other control we have set up is at the end of his docking sequence, when he finally makes his way into the bay and he is happy where he is, that will then trigger the docking end timer and turn off the docking AI. So in a second, hopefully, when he gets lower than the threshold on the event controller, it should flick on the orange light and activate his docking sequence, or at least turn on the docking timer. There we go, it's flipped over to the orange light. And now that docking start timer should have been turned on. And when he gets to the other end, he should go straight into his docking bay.
I can perform so many tasks. If you need help, don't be afraid to ask. If anyone tries to ruin your day, give me a turret, I can make them go away. There are lots of pirates in space. I will guard you. You will be safe. I can fly your spaceships too. 1, 2, 3, let's land on the moon.
And there we go, he can dock all by himself. Right, awesome. Next step is to set up his launch controls, so he can then launch himself back into his patrol route again. And for the Fenrir's launch controls, we will have the battery full controller. When that gets to 100% battery power, it will trigger the control relay for the docking bay, and then it will activate the launch AI for the Fenrir. And then the launch AI will take the Fenrir out to the first waypoint, at which point it will turn itself off and then it will activate the patrol mode again. So it should activate the patrol cycle and start the whole thing over. And now we just have to wait for the Fenrir to charge up again and see if he launches properly. And there he goes, off on his patrol cycle. Oh, very polite of the scrap walker to wait for him. And there we go, the docking bay is reset. Fenrir is off on his merry way. Scrap walker's doing his thing. And it looks like it's ready to go again. So, hopefully, now that he's been launched again, when he gets hungry for more power, he'll come back and have a little rest. And then when he's feeling fresh and ready to go, he'll go out on his little route again. So I think that's another successful mech built. Now I think I'd like to make another one. Because I built this place big enough and in mind to build 2 into one little house. So I think it's time to cut the floor out, build myself another ramp, and maybe build myself another dog bot. Well, it looks like the base defences work. Wasn't expecting that. Where did that land? Ooh. Alright. Not mine then. Okay, and after all of that, and that little bit of drama with the drone attack, we now have a doghouse and a second Fenrir. And I've set up the docking bay and all of that stuff already. So we just need to sort out a patrol route for Fenrir number 2. And now that we've got a bunch of waypoints sorted out, I have updated this one's AI patrol routes, and we should be able to just stick his patrol route on, and off he goes, and hopefully, when he's starting to run out of power, he will make his way back on his own.
I can perform so many tasks. If you need help, don't be afraid to ask. If anyone tries to ruin your day, give me a turret, I can make them go away. There are lots of pirates in space. I will guard you. You will be safe. I can fly your spaceships too. 1, 2, 3, let's land on the moon.
There he goes, he's low on power, and now he should be heading back to his docking bay. So we'll find out how well he works now. And there he goes. He can automatically launch again, so it looks like he is good to go. And we can just leave him doing his thing. So the last few things I would like to do with this doghouse is add the same lighting setup and alarm setup that I've got for the scrap walker bays, and that way we'll be able to see when the dog bots are coming back in and going back out again. So first of all, we're going to need a few of these rotating lights, and then we could add a couple of sound blocks, and a relay. And now we've got the doghouse set up like the scrapwalker bays, with lights and sounds to indicate when the Fenrirs are making their way back to the docking bay, and the same lights and sounds activate when they're making their way back out again. So now we just have to wait for one of them to come back to see if it all works properly. Oh, there we go. They're both making their way home. They should be here pretty soon. Oh, speak of the devil, there's one right there. And there he goes, docking up, getting shoved into place. And hopefully we should hear a sound when he connects. There we go. Fantastic, that's his docking sequence finished. Now just waiting for number one. Here he comes. And there you go. That's both of them done. Docking bays and all. You might notice I've put up a few more decorations. There's a bunch of barrels and signs knocking around now. Also put a few other little bits around the place. Give it a bit more of a lively kind of feel. So, on to the next project, which is going to be slightly bigger than the last one. Well then, the next big project that I've got in mind is to build some kind of grinding mech. Because as you've seen, I've been attacked by assert drones a couple of times, finally managed to catch one of them on camera, and I want to make something that can clean up all that stuff for me and then dump it back in the base, similar to the way the jellyfish can mine ore and then we can bring it back and dump it at the base. So, it's time to build something a little bit bigger again. So, we will first of all get the platform set up for building larger mechs. And then we'll have a look at what we can do here. And apparently I have run out of iron. Right, well, we're going to have to jump back in the redfish and go grab some more of that and then come back. Fantastic. Alright, back in a minute. Alright, let's see if we can use this projector that we set up to line ourselves back up with the old mining hole. Right, let's do a bit of mining then. Right then, we've processed all of that ore, we've turned it all into steel, we've done lots and lots of welding, and we've done a little bit of programming, and now we have this monster that I've called the Mantis, for the pretty obvious reasons. So, this big thing, currently on charge at the minute, we've got a set of AI-controlled grinder arms that can deploy and hunt around and look for things and grind them up. And they can retract again. And then we've got a weapon system for defending and also for attacking. So we've got a set of autocannon turrets and a big custom assault cannon turret that you can see there trying to do its firing sequence, even though it's got no ammo right now. And all of that can auto-retract away, and we can give it a little bit of a test run. Right, well, the Mantis is set up with forward walking controls, and we've also set him up with a reverse walking control setup. And for this one, I'm experimenting with some ideas around variable speeds. So, for his walk cycle, he walks a little bit quicker, and when he walks in reverse, he walks a little bit slower. And I'm hoping that might give us a little bit more range of movement for precision landing in places when we want to end up somewhere in particular. And he also has a vanilla turning control system, because controlling mechs this size with just a mouse would be a little bit wobbly. You can already see he's quite wobbly at the moment, but a little bit more mass on him should sort that out. And as for the vanilla turning control system, someone was asking the other day in a comment why I didn't let the gyro control rotor on the smaller mechs just free spin. And that is because the way it's set up, with shear inertia tensor on, it spreads the mass of the entire grid across these two subgrids and allows the gyro override on this to affect the entire grid. And a byproduct of that is if you allow this rotor to spin, it will shift the entire mass of the main grid. So, for something like those guys, the little drones walking around, it really wouldn't help much. It'd make things actually much worse for them, because they'd be constantly shifting their mass. However, if we want to make a vanilla turning control system, it is the perfect thing. So I just have a couple of event controllers triggered by these thrusters on the side, and when those thrusters fire, it spins the rotor, which then shifts the entire mass of the entire mech. And we can effectively use it to turn around. And one last thing I've included, because it is quite difficult to get all the way up there without a jetpack, or if you've got no hydrogen, is I've made a custom little access system. So we have this ladder here that folds down, and we can use that as a ramp to make our way back up. There's a button to fold it all the way, and then we can jump into the cockpit. And on the way back out, we can press another button and it unfolds beneath us. And then we can fold it all away if we need to. So that's all of his basic systems for now. I think the next step to do is to armour him up a bit and then go and do a little bit of real world testing and see how well he actually works. Right then, we have armoured him up a bit. We've given him a little bit of a paint job. I've made a few little alterations here and there, so I think it's probably time to go and test and see how well the Mantis can scrap these dead enemy bases for us. So I've grabbed the 2 scrap combers as a little bit of backup, just in case us grinding away an enemy base causes a cert to come and have a look and see what's going on. So yeah, add a bit of armour, add a bit of colour. There's still a lot of work to do underneath because there's still a lot of programming and things that I'm probably going to end up putting in him, but for now we've got a nice little canopy above us here to keep this all protected a little bit. We've got an antenna and a beacon and a relay in there for various things. We can then jump into the cockpit and we can activate our scrap combers. So there is a dead base all the way over there. We're going to head that way and see how well this thing works. Right, well, we are at the enemy base, or what's left of it. We can activate our grinder arms and hopefully they will start looking for things to grind up. Now, if there's nothing for the AI to lock onto, like particular blocks, I have equipped the toolbar with the option to control the grinders manually. So we can just grind away and let the arms aim at things for us. Oh. Attached combers are kicking off. Oh, there's stuff falling out of the sky. Okay. Well, we definitely got some attention then. Oh, we've got more attention. Oh, it's still going. Yeah. There's no cert mayfly over there. Might just leave the scrap combers here and try fighting it with just the Mantis and see how well its weapons work. Oh, here we go. We are in range. Almost. And I think it's dead. And there's not much left of him. Right, let's rendezvous with the scrap combers and return to base. Well then, that was an interesting experiment. There were a few issues with the grinder arms. I might have to do a bit of experimenting to see how the turret controllers behave with block tools. didn't quite work as well as I was hoping, but on the plus side, the weapons system side of things seemed to work very well. So I think maybe rather than using this thing to scrap enemy bases, I'm instead going to use it to patrol my base as an extra weapons platform and mop up anything that might land within the perimeter. And as for dealing with the bases, I think I'm going to go with an idea that I saw suggested in the comments recently about making some flying grinder drones and a system similar to the redfish. So I think that might be the theme of next week's episode. So next time we'll find a home for this guy, we'll build him a patrol route, and we'll work on some flying grinders. So thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.